unfortunately, sadly, George Floyd is dead. We heard the U.S. Attorney say it's an incredibly disturbing loss of life. She said we are all grieving. The same came from the Hennepin County Attorney Michael Freeman, but he also went on to say this. Yes, there may have been excessive force. The question is, was it criminal? And then he uttered these words. I'm looking at my notes, Bakari. There is other evidence that doesn't support a criminal charge right now. So go ahead and give us your reaction.
I mean, my reaction is simple. I mean, that was weak sauce on both of their parts. I mean, they could have kept that to themselves. You have people that are hurting. I mean, the lack of nuance, the lack of sophistication, the lack of intellectual honesty that both of those, one an elected official, one an appointed official, had in the wherewithal. I mean, you have people that are hurting. I hearken back to King's "I Have a Dream" speech, but not the rhythmic cadence of "I have a dream that one day we shall." The most important part of that speech is when he talked about the fierce urgency of now. And look, I heard Don and I heard Laura, and my point is the same. Like, we don't condone the rioting, but you can't condemn the rioting and the looters if you don't condemn the systemic injustice and oppression that leads for them to cry out. I mean, you can't sit here and say, oh my God, why are you doing this in this neighborhood, when you don't even ask the question of why. You know, you talk about communities in this country where you don't have access to clean water, where you don't have access to health care, where you're inhaling polluted air, when you're drinking dirty water, when your schools are falling apart, when you don't have access to the same means and resources that your peers have in terms of starting small business, those things called economic justice, and you look at these systems of oppression, you look at these institutions of racism, and then you overlay it with the fact that we're in a pandemic. And down south, Wolf, we had this saying that when the United States of America gets a cold, black folk get the flu. Well, what we're seeing is when America gets COVID, black folk die. And so you overlay the epidemic that we're going through with these systemic injustices, and then you have the audacity to layer it with that weak sauce that just came from those two individuals, one elected and one appointed, and you expect us to be calm. You expect us to be calm and not lash out. You expect us not to raise our voices when our brother was on the ground with a knee in his neck for 8 minutes, treated like a dog. In fact, somebody corrected me earlier today on social media and said, you know what, Bakari? There would be more outrage if it was actual dog down there than a black man. And so you cannot tell me to quell my anger. So no, I do not condone the rioting and the looting, but I understand the rioting and the looting because I understand the systemic injustice that underlines it. And until we have people, like, you have two choices in this country. You only have two. You can either be a racist or you can be an anti-racist. It doesn't make sense for you to stand in the middle and just say, I'm not. No, you have to be an anti-racist. And we need people who are within systems to have courage. Today, what we saw from both of those people at that press conference was weak sauce. We saw intellectual dishonesty, and we saw a lack of courage. And so I'm speaking as a lawyer, I'm speaking as a black man, and I'm speaking as someone who lives and dedicates their life to the premise that we are all free, that we all have access to liberty, that we all have access to life. And to have someone deprived of that, and then you get up there and deliver me that utter weak sauce is a tragedy, and I hate the fact that family had to go through this again.
Bakari, stand by. Joey Jackson is with us, our legal analyst, criminal defense attorney as well. I'm really anxious to get your thoughts on the Hennepin County Attorney.